Welcome to the story world. There was a beautiful and serene valley, encircled by towering mountains, where the scent of cedar trees permeated the very air. Right in the heart of this valley lived two brothers, George and Henry. Their fields lay side by side, as if they were not two separate brothers but rather two parts of a single soul. George was the elder brother, earnest and quiet, while Henry was the younger, a little spirited perhaps, but pure of heart. For 40 years they worked shoulder to shoulder. There was never any barrier between them. If George's tractor ever broke down, Henry would arrive with his own tractor without a word being spoken. If Henry ever ran short of seeds during the sowing season, George would hand over the keys to his granary without a second thought. They were not merely brothers, but the best of friends. In the evenings, they would sit together over tea, sharing stories of their ancestors. The villagers held them up as an example to all. But as the saying goes, time does not stand still forever. Then came an ominous Monday. A trivial argument erupted between them over an old plot of land, a piece of ground that had lain barren for years. George stated firmly,
"This portion belongs to me. Father had instructed that it be registered in my name."
Henry's face flushed crimson with rage and he shouted,
"No! That falls within my share. You always take advantage of being the elder brother."
The minor disagreement escalated into a bitter exchange of words. George called Henry greedy, and Henry retorted by calling George arrogant. In the blink of an eye, 40 years of brotherly love dissolved into a weeks-long silence. They ceased even looking in each other's direction. During the second week of this silence, another incident occurred that served only to add fuel to the fire. Situated right on the boundary between their two fields stood a massive black stone, the very spot where, in their childhood, the two brothers used to sit together and share their meals. George ordered his laborers to uproot the stone and hurl it toward Henry's side, as it was creating an obstruction on his land. When Henry saw that the stone, a symbol of their childhood memories, had been shoved toward him in such a humiliating manner, his heart broke. He felt that George now sought to destroy not merely the land, but their very memories as well. In retaliation, Henry erected a barbed wire fence around the stone and hung a sign there, "Entry strictly prohibited." This seemingly minor incident proved that the dispute was no longer just about the land. It had evolved into a battle of egos. The villagers came forward to mediate, but both brothers shut their doors against them. Blinded by rage, Henry one day summoned a large bulldozer. He plowed through the lush green grass separating the two fields and dug a deep, wide trench. He then diverted the course of the nearby river, transforming the trench into a broad, flowing canal. Now an impassable chasm lay between the two fields, a gap that was impossible to cross. When George witnessed this, his blood boiled with fury. He thought to himself,
"Aha! So he has dug a trench between us, like a wall, to ensure we can never meet again. He has strangled the very life out of our relationship. I, too, will teach him a lesson he will remember for the rest of his life."
The following morning, a knock sounded at George's door. Standing outside was an elderly man, with his snow-white hair, an old wooden toolbox in hand, and a profound serenity in his eyes. He seemed a strangely incongruous figure amidst such a turbulent atmosphere. In a soft, melodious voice he spoke.
"Greetings. I am a carpenter. I have come to this valley in search of work. Do you happen to have any work for me?"
Pointing with loathing toward that ditch, George said,
"Yes. Look at that ditch. My brother dug it solely to taunt and humiliate me. I want you to erect a sturdy, 8-foot-high wall right here, one so solid that I won't even have to lay eyes on anything on the other side." I am heading into the city to fetch some supplies. By the time I return this evening, this wall must be completely finished.
The carpenter looked at George with his discerning eyes, nodded and said,
I understand. I will do a job that will truly make you happy.
George went into the city. The carpenter immediately began his work. In the silence of the forest, the sound of a saw began to echo. He was measuring the wood, shaping it with his tools. He hammered in the nails. Some village children passed by and asked in astonishment,
Grandpa, why are you building such a high wall? Is a war about to break out here? Are you going to separate these brothers forever?
Wiping the sweat from his brow, the carpenter smiled and said,
Children, just wait until evening. You won't see a wall here. Instead, you will witness a miracle.
The carpenter carved the ordinary wooden logs with exquisite artistry. He constructed a railing and adorned it with intricate carvings. He poured his entire soul into the task, working as if he were not merely joining pieces of wood, but mending someone's broken heart. As the sun began to set and the sky behind the mountains turned shades of orange and gold, George returned from the city. From a distance, he saw that the work was complete and the carpenter was packing up his tools. But as he drew closer, the bag of supplies slipped from his hands and his eyes widened in sheer disbelief. There was no 8-foot-high wall there. Instead, spanning the deep ravine, stood a magnificent and artistic wooden bridge. The bridge was so beautiful that it seemed to connect not just two fields, but two entire worlds. Just then, he noticed Henry standing on the other side of the ravine. Henry, too, was stunned by the sight of the bridge. His eyes were filled with tears of remorse. The moment Henry spotted George, he could no longer hold back his emotions. He ran across the bridge and embraced George.
Brother,
Henry said, sobbing,
I dug a chasm of hatred between you and me, yet you repaid my insults with love? You built a bridge for me? You truly are a great man, brother. I have realized the error of my ways. That piece of land holds no value. Ties of blood run far deeper than these ditches.
All of George's anger, all his bitterness melted away like ice in an instant. He held his younger brother tightly, and both of them broke down in tears. That bridge was not merely made of wood, it had become a bridge of forgiveness and love. The two brothers turned around to thank the magical carpenter and offer him a reward. They saw that the carpenter, shouldering his heavy toolbox, was quietly making his way down the road.
Wait. Brother, wait!
George called out loudly.
We need you very much. The fence around my field is broken, and the old window at Henry's house needs fixing. We have plenty of work. Please stay on as our guest for a few more days.
The carpenter turned around. In the light of the setting sun, his white beard and face seemed to glow. With a mysterious smile, he said,
I would have loved to stay, my friends. But I still have many other places to go.
Pointing toward the valley, he continued.
There are plenty of people in this world who build walls of hatred, but those who build bridges are few and far between. I still have many more bridges to build in many other places.
Having said this, the mysterious carpenter headed toward the dense forest and in the blink of an eye, vanished from sight. Both brothers continued to watch him until he was no longer visible, and then, holding hands, they set off toward their home. This story teaches us, forgiveness is the greatest bridge. The best way to resolve bitterness and disputes is not through vengeance, but by reaching out to one another. Build bridges, not walls. Ego invariably creates walls, whereas understanding constructs the bridges that bind relationships together. The positive role of a third party. A good mediator is one who, rather than escalating a conflict, paves the way for peace and reconciliation.
Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Also press the bell icon.